Hello, welcome to today's Facebook Live. Today I'm talking to you about how to improve your content because content is so important to your business. Now, before I get started, I have a little tech trick that I want to try and do. I'm using one of these chatbots called ManyChat, and what I want to be able to do is allow people to request a reminder for something that I'm going to be telling you about in a minute. But in order to do that, I needed to actually already have the post here, which it is now. So let's see if this is going to work. If you're watching the replay, feel free to skip ahead a couple of minutes rather than watching me struggle through my various tech things. Okay. And okay, so I will be with you in 2 seconds, I think. There we go. Oops, and there goes my phone telling me some kind of news headline. Okay. I think that should work. Right. Okay, now that's the fun stuff out of the way. Let's make a start. So, as I said, today I'm talking to you about how you can improve your content. Before I dive into that, let's talk about why that's so important. So, as an online business owner, and if you've read any of this month's blog posts that I've published, you'll have heard me say this numerous times. This month, I've been covering all things content marketing. And the reason it's so important is because as an online business owner, you cannot escape content creation of some sort. Just think about it. Your website, so anything that you're doing on your website is some kind of content. Your about page, of course, your blog posts, if you're writing blog posts. If you are building an email list, then you're probably creating lead magnets and landing pages, all content. Of course, you'll be creating emails for that list, more content. Chances are you're trying to build an audience and promote your stuff on social media. So you're creating social media posts, content. Maybe you're podcasting, maybe you're going live, maybe you're creating videos, all content. So much of what we do as online business owners is content. And so if you struggle to create content that is going to interest and engage your ideal clients, then you're in trouble. And if you struggle to create content that actually inspires people to action, to buy from you, you're in more trouble. Thankfully, it's not actually that difficult to do once you know how, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm going to be covering my 3 key tips to really kick your content up a notch and get it working for your business, so that the huge amounts of time we spend creating content isn't wasted. Because let's face it, most new online business owners that I speak to are probably spending certainly most of their time in content creation, and that can be somewhere up in the kind of anywhere from about 75% of their time to about 90, possibly more percent of their time. If you're spending that much time in content creation, you want to make sure that that time is as productive as possible, and therefore your content needs to be as productive as possible for your business. So let's dive in and let's talk about how you can actually do that. So my first tip is not that sexy, but absolutely vital, and that is just getting organized. So many people that I talk to, especially new online business owners, have no kind of plan around their content. It's kind of, I just sit down one day and I'm going to bang out a few social media posts. Oh, I ought to probably write a blog post. I've not done that for a while. Let me just turn my phone down because it's making all sorts of noises. There we go. So you need to get organized. That's going to make you more productive. It's going to make your content more focused. And it's certainly going to give you better content as an outcome. So let's talk about how you can get more organized. First of all, you need to think about planning the type of content you're going to create. What topics are you going to cover? Think about who your ideal clients are. What are the topics they want to hear about? So that's going to take a bit of preparation, perhaps a bit of research. Maybe you're going to need to talk to your ideal clients. Maybe you're going to need to kind of go and hang out with them online, perhaps do a survey, perhaps just do some kind of behind the scenes research by looking at the types of things that they're talking about, the types of questions that they're asking. You're going to need to do some kind of pre-planning and research so that you know the types of topics you should be covering in the first place. The temptation is to cover the topics that you think either you want to talk about or you think your ideal client should know about. Now, there may be a kind of crossover there, but there may not be. And unless you do that pre-planning, unless you actually go out there and discover what it is they actually want to know about, you may be creating a whole bunch of content that they just don't care about and that they're never going to bother reading. So do your research. Then have a think about the journey that you want to take your audience on with this content. So whatever the content may be, social media posts, blog posts, podcasts, whatever, what is the journey that you're taking people on? So where are your ideal clients at the start of the journey when they first click onto your blog post or whatever? And where do you want them to be by the time that they finish that content? And how are you going to kind of keep them? How are you going to keep them engaged and keep them interested so that they actually get to the end of that journey without kind of clicking away halfway through because they're bored or whatever? Think about that journey. So as an example, let's use this piece of content as an example. So for me, my ideal clients at the start of this journey are creating a whole lot of content, but not necessarily getting the most out of it because they're not creating content that's as good as it could be. And I want to take them on a journey of giving them some really key tools and strategies that they can use so that by the end of this piece of content, they feel confident to go away and really kick their content up a notch, as the title of this post, of this live suggests. So I'm taking people on that journey. I know where they are at the start, and I know where I want them to be at the end. Also think about what their next step should be. So I've talked before about how every piece of content should have some kind of next step or call to action. In marketing terms, you hear it referred to as call to action or a CTA, and that's where you're telling people what you want them to do next. So I'm not going to tell you what I want you to do next because I'm going to be talking about that at the end of this Facebook Live. But examples might be sign up for my email list, sign up for my freebie, sign up for my workshop, like this post, share this post, all sorts of things. So you need to think about what that next step is going to be for your audience and how that's going to benefit, make sure that it's a strategic next step that ties in with something that's going to benefit your business. So what's your current strategy? What are your goals at the moment with your business? Perhaps you're focusing on building your email list. Perhaps you're focusing on building your audience. And so you're wanting people to kind of come and join you on social media or whatever it may be. Think about your own business and what it is you're driving towards and what that action can be that's going to help you get there. Hope that makes sense. If you're watching this now or in the replay, give me a shout if you have any questions. Give me a wave, give me a hello, let me know that you're watching, because it's always nice to see some comments. Okay, the next important thing is, once you know what your topic is, what you're actually writing about, to plot out the key points. Now, this is especially important if you're writing or creating a longer piece of content, like a blog post, a podcast, a video, Facebook Live, something like that. Obviously, for a kind of quick one-liner social media post, you probably don't need to plot out all the points because there aren't that many. But where you're creating a longer piece of content, plot out so you know the journey now, you know where they're starting, you know where you want to take them. What are those key kind of landmarks almost that you want to take them to along that journey? So using this as an example again, my key points are, starting off with a quick introduction, a hello, telling you what my Facebook Live is going to be about. So kind of intro section, and then taking you through each of my 3 tips. So those are the kind of key highlights, what the 3 tips are. And then at the end, a wrap up, a conclusion, and talking to you about the next step. So plot out each of those points that you want to include and take people through as part of that journey. I think it really helps if you think of content as taking people on a journey. You can almost see it, where you're wanting to take people and why. Okay, so that's one more point for organisation is just attention to detail. So we've started off with research at the beginning before you've created the content. We've talked about how you actually create the content itself by kind of splitting it out into points. Once you've created that content, make sure you keep your attention to detail, and make sure you're checking things like typos, and just making sure that all of those little details aren't letting you down and spoiling the kind of great concepts and the great that journey that you're taking people on, because things like that can easily really detract from the message of your content, because it's distracting. Yourself, if you're reading something and there's tons of typos in it, it distracts from the actual message, and it really does make a difference. So keep that in mind, keep your attention to detail. Okay, let's move on to tip 2. So tip number 2 is, my notes are down here in case you wonder why I'm keep looking over there. Tip number 2 is to be believable. And I'll kind of explain in a bit more detail what I mean about this, but especially online where there is so much content. I mean, the internet is kind of saturated by content, as you know, I'm sure. We are now able, when you're kind of scanning through content, flicking through content, you can see straight away what is genuine, what comes off as less genuine, and automatically we're of course drawn to something which comes across as genuine and as real. And if you're not coming across as genuine and real, people are going to click away. So let's go into that in a bit more detail. So first of all, write about things which you have experience with. Write about something you're passionate about. Write about something that you've actually either experienced yourself, or or write from the heart about something that you feel really strongly about. Because if you're trying to write about topics which actually you don't really care about, or you don't really have that much experience with, that will come across in the way you present the content, and people will be able to tell, and it will be a big turn-off. So make sure that when you are creating content, those topics that you're choosing are things that you have experience with, are things that you feel passionate about, because that in itself will improve the content, because it will come through, and people will be able to tell that you're being real, people will be able to tell that you're being genuine, and that makes such a difference. Another great way to kind of be real, to be memorable, and to inspire engagement is to tell stories. Now, again, if you've read any of this month's blog posts, I have mentioned this a few times, because stories are an incredible tool when it comes to creating content. We humans love stories. We remember stories. If you see, an advert or a marketing tagline, you might for a second kind of go, But you don't remember, you don't go home and tell your family about it. You don't tell your friends about, oh, you wouldn't believe this great marketing tagline I saw the other day, unless it's amazing. But stories, people remember, people resonate with them, people connect with them. And so if you're telling stories, they are going to have so much more impact and encourage more engagement. Something I've noticed myself in my own business, when I'm posting on social media, if I post a personal story, the engagement goes whew, like that. It's unbelievable. If you haven't done it before, try it and see what I mean. So stories are another great one. Another way to be believable, I mean, depending on the types of topics that you're writing about, are statistics, of course. So if you're writing about, more of a kind of how-to kind of technical piece of content, then back up what you're saying by using statistics, by using, third-party kind of proof and that kind of stuff to kind of back up with what you're talking about. So be believable, be real, be genuine. Your content will be all the better for it. And now we come on to my third and final tip for creating fantastic content. And that is simply to be you. So many business owners that I speak to, or people who are just wanting to get started with a new business, have this serious kind of lack of confidence when it comes to creating content. There's this kind of belief that unless you have some kind of prior training or specific talent for writing, that people, you can't do it. And while that may be true for things like, writing a novel or something like that, actually, when it comes to your own business, really, the kind of style of content is so different. If you think about things like blogging and video, I mean, all I'm doing here is talking to you. We can all do that. We can all hold a conversation. We can all talk, and it's not about having this kind of fantastic gift for copywriting or anything like that. Just be you, and have faith that if you stick to that, if you just create content as you without trying to be someone else or put on this kind of professional voice or whatever it is, be you, because by doing that, that's how you will attract your ideal clients. Because especially as I mean, my target audience are people who are probably still just a one-man band of a business. You're just getting started. You are your brand, and so let you shine through. Because if you're not, people aren't going to connect with you, and they're not going to connect with your brand. So there is this huge temptation, because of this kind of lack of confidence when people are getting started, to kind of look at the people you admire and try to almost kind of emulate their style. And it's a dangerous kind of ledge to walk on, because yes, it's great to get inspiration from these people, but it's so easy to kind of veer towards almost copying them. And you can only ever be a second-rate version of someone else. And it is so much better to just be the best you, a first-rate version of you. So try and avoid that temptation to compare yourself with others and to kind of think, oh, if only I could write like they could. You don't want to write like they could. You want to just be you. And believe me, that is the best way for you to attract your own ideal clients and to get your kind of brand out there. So what else? Have I got anything else? Don't try to be perfect as well. So I've said not to compare yourself, but also there's this kind of also a belief that I hope you hear that like machine in the background. That's my tumble. No, it won't be my tumble. It's my washing machine going crazy on its spin. So sorry about that. But yes, although perfect timing, don't be perfect. If things like this happen, again, it's just people like to see that you're real. They don't want this kind of perfect person on a pedestal who is, frankly, can be a bit scary and a bit, I can't think of the word. It'll come to me. But anyway, the point is, it's all right to be imperfect. It's all right to make mistakes. It's all right to be a bit vulnerable. In fact, that is going to help you connect with your audience so much better than if you feel like you always have to be perfect. Because at the end of the day, none of us can always be perfect, because we're people, and we have flaws and we make mistakes, and we all do. And so if you're constantly trying to kind of appear to be perfect, oh my goodness, the stress, you'll be exhausted. So just be you, and don't worry about making mistakes and having a few flaws. It's fine. Okay. Emotion. So again, this is all about being you. There's when you think about business, I think people tend to think about corporations, which of course can feel pretty emotionless. Big institutions and corporations can feel pretty humanless and emotionless, and that's not what you want for your business, and that's not how people will connect with you, because we are all emotional, and that's how we build relationships, and it's how we make our decisions. We like to think that we're logical, and that that we go through this kind of logical process of deciding, but fundamentally we make decisions with our emotions. And so if you can tie emotion into your content, that is going to be so much more powerful than any kind of sort of mechanical content that lacks emotion. So don't be afraid to bring emotion into your content. Again, it's a really powerful tool. And then lastly, consistency. And I mean this in two senses. So first, going back to the whole point about being you, and by being you, that allows you to be consistent in your voice and in your style and in your brand. Because and again, I've said this before, but I always think of branding as being a little bit like your business personality, and I love to think of it that way, because brand is so much more than things like logo and fonts and stuff, colors. Yes, that's part of it. I guess if you think about it in terms of personality, the logo and the fonts and colors are essentially perhaps what you wear. So yes, that gives off an impression to people, and that has an impact on your brand. But it's so much more than that, because let's face it, when you meet someone, they're not just what they wear, they're their personality as well. They're the things that they say, and the way that they say them, and the way that they make you feel. Do they make you feel happy? Do they make you feel sad, angry, scared, worried? And that is what your brand should be about. Your brand is your personality as a business. And you need that to be consistent, because let's face it, a person who has a really inconsistent personality can come across as a little bit loopy, as a little, again, slightly doesn't feel quite right. You never know quite what to expect from them, and it's difficult to connect with someone if you never know from one day to the next how they're going to be. So by being you, it brings that consistency, because you're not like trying to be one person one day, another person another day, and so on. So keep it consistent, keep your tone consistent, keep your mood consistent, and keep that voice consistent. And then secondly, in terms of from a consistency perspective, is of course creating your content consistently in terms of frequency. So if you're going to do blogging, pick a schedule and stick to it, because that way you're setting expectations, and by then meeting those expectations, you are building your credibility, you're building trust with your audience. They know now, oh, okay, yeah, Colette, she posts a new blog post every Monday, and if I'm on her email list, I'm going to get an email from her every Tuesday, and so on. And so try and keep that consistency, and that will kind of set expectations and increase your credibility as well. So that's it, my 3 tips. Let's run through them. Number 1, get organized. Number 2, be believable, be real. And number 3, be you. And if you can do those things, I promise you, your content is going to increase in value and in awesomeness. Okay, so before I go, I want to give you your next step. And I want to tell you about next week. So next week, to round off my month of content marketing, I am going to be going live here on this page every single day from Monday to Friday. And each day I'm going to be covering a different topic related to content and content marketing. Now, if you would like to come and join me and get all this kind of juicy content insight, then you can type reminder into the comments, and you will then be sent a reminder via Facebook Messenger just to tell you each time I'm going to go live on my page, so that you don't miss all the goodness. Types of content topics that I will be covering are things like how often you should be creating content, what types of content you should be creating, how to promote your content. So all good stuff. If you have any burning content questions yourself, let me know again in the comments, and I will make sure that I include those as well. So there you go. Type reminder in the comments if you would like to be reminded when I'll be going live next week. I'll be going live every day from Monday to Friday, covering all juicy topics around content and content marketing. So I hope I see you there, and I hope you found today's session helpful too. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Take care.